When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity this afternoon at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. We were talking to Selena Zito earlier, and she was talking about how unhinged the D.C. press corps was over Newseum having fake news T-shirts and, you know, the fainting spells and the need for smelling salts and the like. Well, you haven't heard Unhinged until you heard Maria Hinojosa over the weekend. She's of NPR. She has a suggestion for what the D.C. press corps should do in response to President Trump and his tweeting. They're not going to take it anymore.
And I've said this on your show before, again, send the interns. It's great training to the press conference. If we completely, we as the media have got to start taking certain steps to communicate things. I think a letter, absolutely. But what if we just turned away? What if we didn't show? What if all of us just said, for a whole week, we're not going to talk about one thing that comes out of the White House? It's radical. I know it's upsetting because we're just like, but this is not how we operate. But he is coming after us. Are we going to have to start talking about this after one of us has been killed? Is that it?
So apparently Trump is targeting members of the D.C. press corps for assassination. This is so unhinged, so it becomes so ridiculous and overheated that no less than Buffy the Vampire Slayer had to weigh in.
No, she's back?
Christy Swanson was on Greg Gutfeld's show on Fox talking about the media. She's a Hollywood actress.
So when they see CNN, they go, you, because that's their outlet. So am I wrong?
No, I don't think that that's wrong, but I think that your advice is actually good. The tough love, right? Because I do think, not to get technical on the polls, but he's leading women.
This is Dana Perino. I get the wrong clip there. Sorry. But ultimately, she said the media needs to take a chill pill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they need to relax. They're a little ridiculous. Well, for more on the ridiculousness of the media from somebody who had to deal with it for quite some time, we're pleased to be joined by former White House press secretary Sean Spicer. His book, The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President, and he's in town Wednesday for a book signing here in Chicago that we'll be at, which should be heap big fun. Sean, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. What about that? Here's my reaction to Maria Hinojosa from NPR. I would agree with her. I would like the D.C. press corps to send the interns to the White House briefing because it would confirm or deny my suspicion that the questions and comments would be indistinguishable from the professionals who attend the White House briefings.
Well, I think that the thing that is interesting is that you've got this, and I talk about this in the book, there's a pack mentality that exists within the press corps, at least within sort of the elite Washington ones. But the thing that's interesting is that, and one of the reasons that I started to call on people, quote, in the back of the room, is that I think that there are a lot of voices that don't get captured in the briefing room. And that's, not the business media, the urban media, the niche media, the conservative media. The problem is that you've got guys in the front couple rows that represent the big media conglomerates that all have the same question, that all want to perpetrate the same narrative. But what I think should be done more is kind of what I did in the past, which is you bring in local media through Skype, you call on folks. But part of it is that what you need to do is shake this up more and more and not let them try to dominate what the American people see and read and hear.
I remember when you were there and there was a woman who Skyped in from Montana, and she was concerned about border security. And I remember people, the mainstream media, they were laughing at her question. Do you recall that? Because I thought that was so rude.
And there was another person that I brought in from out west who talked about land use, federal land use issues. And the media hated it because they didn't like their time, which is how they view it. It's theirs. And issues coming up that don't fit the narrative. There's one instance, Amy, that I write in the book where a reporter asked a question during a press conference about national security between Canada and the United States during a joint press conference between Justin Trudeau and our president. And the media went nuts on her because they thought that she should be asking questions about Russia that day. And so because she was asking about national security, her colleagues went nuts on her.
Oh, my God. Because it is an issue.
I wanted to ask you your take on Sarah Huckabee Sanders' performance so far, somebody who followed you in that position as White House press secretary, particularly against the backdrop of how things got ratcheted up. I remember when you were sort of accosted, somewhat gently, but accosted nonetheless at an Apple store. And that sort of was just the beginning of what's transpired since. And so her job, the job she's done as press secretary in the context of, being thrown out of the Red Hen and the rest of it.
Well, look, I think that there's clearly, it's interesting to hear some of the comments you played earlier with respect to the media, because there are folks that have been coming after us for a while, and I don't recall I wasn't looking for a pity party, but I don't remember too much of the concern from the media about the safety of individuals, who serve in the government and in this administration. But, for me, I think Sarah's doing a great job representing exactly what the president wants to get out there in his views. I know sometimes people don't like that she's the messenger, and they'll say, well, Sarah, don't you think? One of the things that you have to remember is that her job it's not about her. It's about the president. And for that reason, I think she does a good job of making sure that his views are articulated and known.
What did you think about Scaramucci? I mean, Anthony wasn't there, but I don't even think 2 full weeks, but what did you think of his short tenure there?
I write about that in the book, Amy, that I have nothing personal against the guy. I just don't think that he had the qualifications, the background necessary to serve effectively in the role.
Yeah, I think that's more than a fair assessment.
Yeah, you know what? That's very nice.
Let me ask you, so here's one of the things that everybody wants to know, and there's varying opinions on it, but few people are closer to the president than you, how the president processes advice and makes decisions. So as the press secretary, you're also a counselor to the president. You give him input and suggestions, recommendations, and then he processes all the advice he's getting and makes his decisions. But what's that like? Is there some structure to it? Is it somewhat whimsical? Does it depend on the day? What was that process like for you?
Well, the big misnomer out there, Dan, is that the president doesn't take advice or listen. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. He seeks it, he welcomes it, but once he makes a decision, that's final. And what happens, I think, sometimes is the people who don't like the decision try to make it look like he didn't take their advice. But there's always two sides to an issue, and he sort of wants a robust debate among the folks that serve him to give him the best idea of what's in the best interest of the country. So he does take it and he does welcome it, but ultimately he's going to decide which side of the issue he's going to come down on, and then he expects people to kind of follow through on that.
You were a political animal, of course, before being the White House press secretary. I remember actually a mayors and managers meeting for this company, Salem Media, where you were at in advance of the 2016 election, sort of handicapping the political landscape for us as a comm person at the RNC. And so, you understand that bubble in D.C. very well. Do you think that Trump has been disruptive where he should be, and essentially abiding norms where he should abide them? Or has it been sort of a bit of a mixed bag as he's learned the Beltway the way that you know it?
Well, look, I think in terms of what he came to do, he did exactly did and is doing. Meaning, you're right, he's disruptive. He's coming in and changing things up, not abiding by anybody's standards for what has to be done, but in fact doing it the way that he wants to get it done. So sometimes it doesn't always look pretty, and sometimes it may not be perfect but I think he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and beyond just saying that, he's also getting results, and that's probably the bigger point.
Now, your book tour is causing some angst. I know that we were going to go to a certain restaurant. I don't know if we can say the name of the restaurant.
Public House.
To have your the meet and greet, and they did not. They were. I don't know if they're afraid of you, but they didn't want us there. So we're going somewhere else. We're going to Harry Carey's, but the one in Rosemont. But how have you responded to all this? I know that they canceled one of your signing events in Massachusetts, correct?
Correct. But you know what? I did an event yesterday in Toledo, Ohio that had a few hundred people. It was fantastic. I was in San Francisco to a sold-out event of 400. Sacramento, we had another event up there with 500 people. all great events. Look, people have a right to express themselves. I respect that. But so far, we've had we had an outlet store in Massachusetts that canceled the event. I think that's unfortunate because there's clearly demand. But we'll do what we have to get out there, and I think that we're going to have a great event in Chicago on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I think we're going to as well. Now, what has it been like, sort of in quote unquote private life since you left the White House? Do you still get feedback when you walk around town, go to the grocery store, and the like?
Yeah, generally it's pretty positive, though. I mean, people who disagree will come up and say, "Hey, I didn't vote for your guy," or "I'm not, I don't really support your side, but thanks for your service." And then there's just a lot of folks that are really positive. So I've had a very good reception since leaving the White House. Not all of it's positive, but at least it's been respectful and civil.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Do you miss your job? Do you miss your
Do you miss Jim
position
Acosta?
as White House press secretary?
No. I was honored to do the job, but I have not had one day where I look back and say, I wish I was there.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to the book, what's the future hold? Maybe a spot in the New York Times editorial board or something?
I don't know what that spot would be.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Although I was pleased. I will say, speaking of a spot, the book did make the New York Times bestseller list. So
congratulations.
I was excited to get that. Thank you. That's one spot on the New York Times I'll take.
Right.
I've got a podcast that I launched called Everything's Going to Be All Right. We've got I run a small consulting firm, and I've been just doing a series of projects that keep me extremely busy. The book itself, writing the briefing, took 6 months, and so that was a really intense period to get it done and make the deadlines that we had to make.
All right. He is Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary, author of the bestseller, The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President. He'll be in Chicago for a fun book signing event on Wednesday. Sean, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll see you Wednesday.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. You bet.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.